Alrighty, it is another ice fishing update, except there's no ice fishing because I forgot my auger. I have an axe and I may try to hack through 18 inches of ice, but no fishing this time. It's just going to be me talking. Updates on the COVID lawsuits this week, some big news. First things first, yesterday I posted a video talking about some incidents that are making the news in Canada, but not as much of the news as they should. One of those incidents occurred at Canada's quarantine hotel. Sorry, love the euphemism. One of Canada's quarantine hotels. As though when the government whisks you off to these places, you're on vacation. Anyhow, I made a rather lengthy, detailed vlog about an incident that happened that's not making as much of the news as it should. And lo and behold, that video was demonetized. And I don't care about the monetization aspect. I tell you, it's been one or two of my last 50 videos that have been demonetized. What I care about is that it means YouTube has no interest in recommending it, in promoting it, nor do they. When they demonetize a video, it gets absolutely suppressed by the algorithm for totally economic reasons. There's no reason to promote a video that YouTube cannot advertise on. So go check that video out, share it. I think a lot of people have been sharing it. Watch it, share it, let people know what's going on in the world. As far as things that are going on in the world, before there, things that are going on with the channel. We are going to start doing, Robert and I are going to start doing Wednesday night live stream interviews with a guest. So it'll be like a 3-way, 4-way panel sometimes. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a new dynamic. It's going to bring in guests that will come on and discuss issues that are going on in the world. This Wednesday, it's going to be an amazing one. Dave Rubin is going to come on my channel with Robert, and we're going to have an amazing discussion. So stay tuned for that. Also on Monday, I'm going to be doing a live stream with Nate Brody and another lawyer on YouTube, Ian Corzine. Stay tuned for all of it. It's all good stuff. Now, as far as the world goes and updates, the big update, which I have to do a follow-up on, is what happened in the Netherlands. Last week, I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half, there was a lawsuit filed to contest the curfew that had been imposed in the Netherlands. It had been imposed something like a month ago. Some activist groups filed a lawsuit to challenge the curfew. They, in fact, succeeded in the lower court, but like I explained in my first video on the subject, they succeeded in declaring the curfew illegal but not unconstitutional, in the sense that the curfew was imposed by the government in virtue of an emergency measures type act. And this activist group said you cannot use that law to create and impose a curfew. If you want to impose a curfew, typically it would have to go through the legislative branch. It would have to be approved as law, and you cannot call it exploit, for lack of a better word, but you cannot invoke an emergency act to declare a curfew which lasts over a month, which some might say by definition can no longer be called an emergency. So the lower court ruled, yes, this is correct. The law that was used to underpin this curfew that had been imposed on the Netherlands, which apparently caused some riots and some protests, the law that was used to underpin that curfew was not the proper method, was not the proper law to be used to create such a thing as a curfew that lasts over a month. The same day, the government appealed the decision and obtained a suspension of the execution of the lower court order, meaning the curfew would stay in effect until the appeal could be heard a few days later on Friday. In the interim, what does the government do? It effectively rushed through a law through the legislative method that created and imposed the curfew. So everything became somewhat moot, academic. The issue was no longer an issue because the very object of the decision, which was that the legal underpinning of the curfew was invalid, well, the government remedied that by pushing through a law to get the curfew in place anyhow, through the means that the court said might have been the appropriate channels to get the curfew enacted. But the Court of Appeal heard the decision anyhow. I just heard a really good echo. Echo! Pretty cool. The Court of Appeal heard it, and then they said, we're going to render a decision next week. That was last week, now it's this week. And yesterday, the Court of Appeal rendered its decision and confirmed the legality of the curfew under that Emergency Measures Act that the government had prior used to impose this curfew. So on the one hand, it's a double loss because The curfew had been imposed anyhow on the basis of legislation that the government pushed through within the few days. And now the Court of Appeal basically ratified the idea that this Emergency Measures Act, whatever it's called in the Netherlands, can be used to justify such things as a curfew. Apparently the activist group said they're going to appeal it to whatever is the higher court in The Hague in the Netherlands. So we'll see where that goes. But, bottom line, even if they succeed on the technical aspect that the law was not the proper law to impose the curfew now has been enacted in virtue of legislation anyhow that they rushed through. So it is what it is. The only remedy now is going to be a political one if enough of the population does not approve of these measures and decides to vote out the politicians who voted in these measures now. So that's the big one update on the Netherlands, which it is what it is, as we say, when we have resigned ourselves to the courts and then to the political process. There were some updates in the United States coming down from the Supreme Court out of California, which was suspending the ban on indoor church services pending the appeal because a decision is being heard by the Court of Appeal, but they did not stay the ban pending the appeal, which the Supreme Court has stayed the ban, meaning the ban is no longer being imposed, so they can hold something of indoor church services pending the adjudication on the appeal. 6-3 decision. We'll talk about it with Robert tomorrow. My only note of interest, and I posted it to Twitter in what I hope is an undumb tweet, something Justice Kagan said effectively, justices are not scientists. We have no business second-guessing what the governments are implementing as policy based on whatever scientific recommendations they're getting. To which I said, yes, justices are not scientists. But on the one hand, some of these scientists, if not the ones making the actual decisions, are political appointees. So while justices may not be scientists, in a meaningful sense, these scientists are in fact politicians. And that's even, in the context where these decisions are being implemented on the recommendations of scientists. We did a video on what happened in Pennsylvania. What happened in Pennsylvania, you didn't even have scientists making these policy decisions. You had political committees sitting around deciding what the cap was going to be on indoor shopping. You had politicians deciding who was going to get to hold massive outdoor motoring events. You had politicians making these decisions based on committee groups with little, if any, scientific input. So what Justice Kagan is saying, just resign the Supreme Court to the recommendation of scientists. Historically, we have seen what had happened with that in Buck decision, in Jacobson decision, which we've talked about at length on the channel, to just leave the massive policy decisions in the hands of politically appointed scientists can go bad places, and that's why you have the Supreme Court, to ensure that even scientific recommendations respect fundamental, basic human rights and constitutional rights. So that's the update. Stay tuned for more. It is good to get some fresh air and some open air. And I hope everyone out there is doing well. If you like, what I do here, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want notifications of the videos when they go up. Drop a comment in the comment section. I'm also on Rumble for everyone saying that I'm placing too many eggs in one basket or complaining about YouTube suppression. I'm also posting all of my content to Rumble, which is another great platform. And that is about it. Take care of yourselves. Make sure everyone around you is doing well. And I'm going to go get an axe and get a workout for the day. Peace.